down a little bit in here. So for anybody that's been to a C9 event before, I'm typically the loud one, so now they gave me the quiet mic. So I'm going to let my voice project a little bit while people get settled. I got a few notes here and some things that I want to go through to kick this off, but let me just say that it feels so good to have this palpable energy in this room of all of you, and I feel it, I can feel it. And it means so much for you to dedicate some of your time to listen to some of our panelists and our moderator. And so more than anything, thank you for your time and for being here. My name is Aaron Eggert. I am the founder and Chief Vision Officer of Coalition 9 and the Executive Director of the C9 Gives Foundation. And this is my baby. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to the people that we have today. But before we get going, I want to thank a few people, and I will thank them again at the end of the session here. First of all, we could not do stuff like this without our community supporters. We're in the middle of our community supporter drive for 2026. And so if anybody's interested in that, we'll talk about that a little bit later at the end of the session. But our community supporters make a lot of this stuff happen. So we can't do some of these epic events without our supporters and then the people that sponsor these events as well. So they're all along here. Real quick, anybody that is a community supporter, will you please stand up? Come on now. Come on now. Look at that. Hell yeah. So thank you. Round of applause. If you see a community supporter on their name tag, thank them, because they are helping make this thing a reality, and really at the end of the day, helping make our community a reality as well, along with our members. So I also want to be able to thank anybody that supported this event. So our event supporters are strategic talent partners. Could you guys stand up, please? Stay standing. Okay, Lothar Construction and Consulting, Orion, and Groove Capital. Yeah. Our event partners, as part of being a part of this, I wanted them to say a little bit about their firms. So Ilana and Carl, come on up here. I'm going to screw up Carl's last name. It's the hardest name. So Ilana McIntosh, Carl Sachia. God, that's so good. All right. Hey, I just want you to say a little bit about your firm, and thank you so much for being a partner in this event.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Aaron, for putting this event together. You're the best. And look at all these wonderful people here in support of C9 today. My name is Ilana McIntosh. I am a partner at Helmuth & Johnson. I practice in business transactions, which means that I do a lot of contracts in real estate mergers and acquisitions and corporate law. This is my partner, Carl Tashia, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Morning, everyone. Very intimidating to see all the people that have gathered here. That's wonderful. I'm a partner at H&J, and I primarily practice in the trust and estates department. I also do some elder law and business and real estate matters as well, but we're very happy to be here and represent our firm. There's a lot of offerings our firm has, and we're very happy to be a sponsor here. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, our next one. I don't even know if I need to introduce this guy. He and I have been friends for years. He is our actual first member of Coalition 9. He's been with us for many, many years. He continues to support our community in so many different ways. Darren Lynch, you want to come on up and say a few words? Let's give a round of applause for Darren.
Okay. Morning, everybody. As Aaron said, I am the OG C9er. I knew Aaron before C9. He and I had lots of conversations over pints and whiskey. I think you're more of a bourbon guy. And so kind of brainstormed a lot of things along the way. And look what he has accomplished. So a round of applause for Aaron. Because that's what we do, right? So anyway, Irish Titan is an e-commerce agency. I started the company 21 years ago, so we have a lot of history behind us and a lot of future still in front of us. One of our Titans is here. Jack is somewhere in the back. Stand up, Jack. You don't have to sit and raise your hand. Nobody cares about that. Stand up. There we go, Jack. Irish Titan is an e-commerce agency that builds and grows e-commerce channels. That means we build e-commerce sites with platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, some of those sorts of things you've heard of. And we also work with our merchants on their e-commerce marketing activities, email, paid search, SEO, et cetera. And so we have a Titan-only model, meaning we do all of our work with just our Titans, no contractors, freelancers, or offshore resources. Not that there's anything wrong with that model, I just picked a different lane. And we're closed only 2 days a year, St. Patrick's Day and the day after.
I'm not shocked by any of that. Yeah. Thank you. And then we could not do this event at this space without our partnership with Viking Lakes, the Minnesota Vikings and Vikings Museum. So real quick, Gabriella, if you'd like to come up, just say a couple things real quick about this space and our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here today. So my name's Gabby. I'm the events manager here on campus. Welcome to the Vikings Museum. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the spaces that we activate. So obviously the museum space, we activate all year round. It's great for networking events, private dinners, meetings just like this. And then we also have a roof deck on the floor above us, which is great if a client wants to pair an indoor and outdoor space for their clients and guests. That's wonderful as well. Obviously, TCO Stadium, we do lots of athletic events in there. Minnesota Women's Aurora Soccer Team, Minnesota Women's Gemini Rugby Team, and then also lots of non-athletic events. So we could do lots of our charity run walks, use the stadium as a start-finish line for their charity runs. We also host big corporate summer picnics if a company wants to host a big event for all of their staff and family. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is our plaza, which is the space in between this building that we're in and the stadium. In the warmer months, it's a plaza turf space, and so we can do lots of outdoor events there. And then in the winter, we're gearing up for our winter solstice program, which starts this Saturday, runs through the end of February. From now until Christmas, it's in conjunction with the Magic of Lights, the drive-through experience just in our gravel lot across the way. And then we do, on your way out, you can check it out. There's a big heated tent that gets popped up, skating rink next to it, lots of fun for families. And then from January 16th through the 25th, we have our big shebang ice festival, ice maze walking experience, pop-up speakeasy, pop-up tiki bar. So if you want to use the campus for an event, great. And if not, I hope we see you this winter with family or friends. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Gabby. Gabby, thank you so much. And also, they open up the doors for the museum. So as we start to wrap up here around 10:30 or so, we have access to that museum as part of the relationship building part. Here's how this day is going to go. If you were here last year, it's going to emulate a little bit of the same thing. So we're going to do, I'm going to welcome Michaela up to stage. She's going to introduce our panelists. We're going to do some short Q&A with them for a little while, for just under an hour. I don't like doing events that are just being talked at, so we had to be able to integrate in some relationship building and some conversation talking about next year. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into some small group discussions for about 20 minutes at 10 o'clock. Those of you who are at tables, just stay at your tables. We'll be passing out some cards to start those conversations a little bit. Those of you that are sitting in here, get comfy and just start making little circles or semicircles or something like that. It's going to get weird, and we want that. So make it weird up here. And then when we come back, we're going to do some ahas. So we'll pass the mic around if anybody has anything that they want to share that they learned along the way, whether it be from our panelists or from your small group discussions. And then we're going to wrap this thing up around 10:30, and you've got the space until 11. Sound good? All right. So I was thinking about who would be an awesome moderator for this and who touches a lot of different businesses in addition to the people that we have on our panel. And one of the people that came to my mind immediately was Michaela Rossard. She and I have built a relationship. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I'm not even going to read it. She and I built a relationship over the last few years. Groove Capital, if you don't know, is an early stage venture capital firm. She's a partner in that firm. She brings a crazy amount of expertise to the table, but I think at the end of the day, what she does is she's got such a curious personality that is able to kind of cut through all the BS to be able to get to the point. And the work that they're doing at Groove, if you're not familiar with Groove, they're an event supporter of ours. I am personally an investor as well, so I'm an LP in that fund because I truly believe that the startup ecosystem is what's going to turn into fueling the small business ecosystem, and then we'll eventually have the sports engines and all the other other different firms that transition out. So I am so proud to be able to welcome Michaela up to the stage, and I'm going to have her take it from here. Michaela, welcome.
Good morning. Amazing. Thank you so much. I won't fill in too many more gaps. Aaron, thank you for that lovely introduction. So I'm Michaela Rosard, partner at Groove Capital. As mentioned, we are focused on investing in Minnesota startups at the earliest stage. What's unique about our model is we are both a venture fund as well as an angel network. So for Minnesota startups, that means 2 sources of capital, 1 relationship. For investors, that also means 2 different ways to participate, depending on what makes most sense for them. So I'm excited to be here. This will be a really great conversation. The main goal is to really kind of ground ourselves into what to expect going into 2026. I will introduce. It feels really weird that you guys are like, should we do walk-up songs? I'm not sure. Maybe just join me and then I'll kind of keep talking. That would be terrible, but don't get me started on karaoke. So what's really cool about how Aaron and C9 put together the panel, you'll see as I introduce them, each individual has a really unique kind of vantage point covering all of the core business functions that us as business leaders really should be thinking about. So let me get my notes so I make sure that I don't miss any key pieces. It's a pretty great group of folks. But so to my immediate left, we have Joe. When you hear kind of Joe's vantage, my pen, thank you. So Joe is going to be providing us the kind of banking and economic kind of background. So as he's answering questions, put just like a $sign above his head in your mind. That's the viewpoint that he's going to be bringing. He's the president of Tradition Capital Bank, previously held senior roles at Scale Bank, which is now part of Fidelity, as well as American Equity Bank. He has an economics degree from Brown and an MBA from St. Thomas. So we're very excited to have his participation. Jenna Eslick, she had to make sure that you guys were in the order of my notes. Thank you for doing that. That was a little bit coincidental. She is specializing in human capital and will help us kind of understand how our organizations can plan and lead and build stronger teams going into 2026. She is the president of HR Solutions at Verseek, where she leads executive and professional and interim recruiting. Before Verseek, she was the head of HR for Americas at Radisson Hotel Group and previously held several HR leadership roles at Target. Holds an international and Spanish degree from University of St. Thomas as well. The icon that I'm giving her in my mind is a wheel, a spoken wheel, so kind of think connector when you hear her talking and answering the questions as we go about. And then we have Taylor Johnson. She works hands-on with companies navigating culture and DEI and in the employee experience. She's going to help us understand what's shifting and sneak peek, there's a lot shifting right now. She is the senior strategy consultant at Insperity. Her background spans analytics, sales, and operations. Has a management degree from Texas A&M, a master's in HR management from Houston Baptist University. The emoji I'm giving her in my mind is a ladder. So think of kind of developing your workforce. And then we have at the very end, last but not least, Matt Posey. He is bringing the tech lens to the discussion. He has over 20 years of experience in professional services and consulting. He's deeply committed to culture and leading with integrity. And at his core, he is a connector. So you can see how these are, oh, I forgot your icon. Your icon is a robot. Yes. Yes. So you can see how we have all the core functions kind of covered. And so to ground us a little bit in where the discussion is going to go, we're going to start by just understanding what's happening at a macro level in the economy and the market. And then we're going to get into some core functions that I know are on everyone's minds. Think talent development, leadership, technology. So without a further kind of preamble. I want to start everything off, and we'll go round robin with this question. If we can just maybe start down the line, Joe, and then everyone else too, what is the number one question that you're getting right now from your clients or the folks that you're working with?
Yeah, and whoa, and this is the loud mic. Aaron wasn't kidding. Yeah, people in the back like it. Okay, good. All right, I'm here for you. All right. Well, this is good. Maybe start with me, probably least interesting to most interesting, maybe, probably how it goes, because I'm the banker, and what I get asked about a lot is actually interest rates. That's kind of what my clients are interested, both from clients who are looking at taking out loans or maybe have loans, to the other side of it is clients who are saving and want to know kind of what might happen with their saving rates. So that's probably the thing I get the most. And I think some of that also relates to, we've seen some dynamic years in interest rates the last few years. You think of 23 and 24 when we had kind of a rapid rise in rates. And then this past year we saw a little bit more on the declines. And so people want to know in 2026, like what are you seeing that's going to happen with rates? And to be honest with you, I don't see us having a super dynamic year in 2026 for interest rates when you look at kind of what's happening out there and what the Fed is thinking on the interest rates. Now, again, that's more on the short-term side of things. There still is a little bit higher inflation than they're hoping for right now. There's still some uncertainty in what's going to happen with the unemployment rate. We're starting to see that tick up a little bit higher now. So those are kind of contradictory things. If you think high inflation, you think rising interest rates. If you think unemployment rate going up, you think then they're going to be cutting rates. So it's kind of a little bit of that's going to lead to a little bit more caution on that side. So as we're kind of doing our budgeting, what I tell people is we probably are going to budget for the bank a couple of interest rate cuts during the year. So on the short-term side of things, we are anticipating seeing rates come down, but not very much. I'm talking maybe 50 basis points or something like that is what we're thinking. But then the other side of that is that doesn't really necessarily correlate to what's going to happen on the long-term rate. So I think sometimes when we hear that question, people are wondering what's going to happen, and they're talking about on the mortgage side, on the real estate borrowings, and really the short-term interest rates, the Fed is cutting those things. It doesn't impact that as much. The Treasury rates are really what set those long-term mortgage rates, and it's kind of the same thing. I don't necessarily see the long-term rates coming down a ton in 2026. On the mortgage side, we're seeing that home loans are kind of in that, just call it mid-sixes kind of range. I could see that remaining kind of similar in the first half of the year, maybe getting down to the high fives in 2026. So still not a lot of dynamic movement in rates, which means probably a year of pretty moderate to slower growth is what we're thinking.
There's a lot of headlines with interest rates. Can you just remind everyone, what is the governing body that sets the interest rates?
The Fed sets the interest rates, yes.
Great, thank you. Jenna, over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So questions that we're getting from our clients, we work a lot with small and mid-sized companies at Verseek, and they want to know what are other companies talking about. But if I had to boil that down, I'm going to ramble off a lot here. I think we can go a little bit deeper, hopefully, in our conversation here on some of these topics. AI is a big one, right? And HR is...
Hold on, I have to cut you off for 1 second.
Yeah.
Niels, what's our timer?
3 minutes and 24 seconds.
3 minutes and 24 seconds. AI was finally talked about. I have a surprise.
Yep.
And you guys, we didn't even get to Matt, the tech guy.
Okay.
Okay, for those in the back, we've got a little blue unicorn. This is I'm beholding. You get the AI unicorn for bringing it up first.
All right. Yes.
And it's a big deal. We'll come into it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to award you with that.
Thank you very much. All right. So AI, and specifically what that looks like in the HR space, and how are organizations thinking about how they leverage AI while still being human-centric? So that's one piece. The other thing, which many of you are probably tired of hearing about this, but Minnesota paid leave, which is quickly coming down the pike. And with that, by this point, organizations should have their plan in place, right? Whether they're going the state route or the private route. But I think the part two to that is thinking about, once this goes live, what does that actually mean to your organization and to your employee population? And how are you thinking about strategic workforce planning, with Minnesota paid leave being a part of that? Other things, that we hear a lot about or questions are around leadership development and how are organizations thinking about creating those succession plans and preparing employees to be the next leaders in their organizations when the expectations of leaders is really changing. We have 6 generations in the workforce right now, and each of them has different expectations as to what they need from a leadership perspective and what is important to them and what engagement looks like. So that would be the third that I would say is really around kind of that leadership development and succession planning. You're good.
Well, good morning, everyone. Projecting? No, it's fine. Here we go. Oh, I've got a loud mic. All right, good morning, everyone. So what I'm hearing from clients is, how are we going to navigate compensation decisions amid the rising financial stress? We've heard about that. And shifting workforce expectations. So if this is something that you are anticipating will be a challenge, or maybe you're facing already, here are just a few things you can do. We want to lead with proactive transparency, right? Explain to your employees how compensation decisions are being made. Within reason, of course, you can't peel back every single layer, but you can share market benchmarks like state and federal data, share how these performance factors will roll up to create those or determine those compensation decisions, and then talk about your compensation philosophy. If you don't have one yet, now is the time to draft one, right? So think about, is my organization leading, matching, or lagging the market, and why? Right? And how will my organization supplement through benefits or support our employees? Because communication helps to build trust, but it also reduces speculation. So you want your employees to walk away from these conversations saying, hey, okay, I'm not necessarily happy with my increase, but I do understand why this decision was made. It makes sense. And then you can leverage development as your currency. You may not be able to increase salaries, but you can provide skill-based development, mentorship, or even internal mobility. Mobility does not always translate to promotions. Think rotational programs, lateral moves. Those are still mobile, right? And of course, we want to prepare our leaders with any business strategy, compensation included, to have tough conversations. Help them understand that compensation philosophy, give them talking points to explain how you all are investing back into the workforce, because it's more than just numbers. These conversations are about building trust, creating that transparency, and making sure that we understand the psychology of money, right? For some employees, pay is about status. For others, pay is about stability. And then for most of us, pay is proof that your organization values you as an individual. And so when we cannot increase salaries, it's important for us to think about how we can become more flexible, how we can create more professional development opportunities, and how we can be more creative with recognition. Think about spot bonuses. You can do project-based incentives, even non-monetary rewards such as gift cards or additional PTO. And I know that sounds scary, but some people are looking for just additional PTO to be recognized. So these can become really powerful tools to retain and engage your workforce, even when you are facing some financial stress.
Thank you. I was warned this is hot, so if I'm loud, I apologize. Hopefully this is Aaron's mic too, because I guarantee I'm going to drop it. So we work with Lee, we're a large advisory firm. We work mid-market, which, what does that mean? 5 million to $1 billion. That's a big slice of mid, so I'd argue it's not super mid-market, but the thing we're being asked the most is when, right? Digital strategy is important. A lot of people are trying to understand through the, kind of constraints they have, when is the right time, and that's a constant sort of problem analysis we're having to do with clients and saying, well, a lot of this is driven by the problems you have, the pain you have, the value you're going to get out of solving these, but working with manufacturers, retailers, distributors primarily, this kind of largest slice of the pie we work with, the tariffs have been an issue, right, for manufacturers, raw material retailers, right? Distribution, they've been going through, hey, I didn't know what a free trade zone was. Now I know all about free trade zones for distribution and how you put those in and keep the inventory separate. So the how isn't as important as so much as the when right now is, hey, when are we getting left behind? When do we need to jump in? We work with a lot of competitors, and a lot of competitors are asking us, like, what are other people doing? We obviously can't tell them, but a lot of the things we talk about are just when is it going to start making sense? And probably the last 8 weeks, maybe, we started to see that when coming sooner, because everyone's just kind of aligned to the uncertainty now, like, hey, this 20% of not being able to control it, or the uncertainty is going to come as a part of that, we're okay with living with, and this other 80% we're going to try to invest in to try to do it. But that's probably the number one thing we're being asked over the next 3 horizons.
I love that. So a common theme seems to be everyone wants to know what everyone else is doing, which is great. That's the power of things like C9. You get to compare notes with each other and really learn from your counterparts. So certainly the economy and the market plays a really big role as business leaders in understanding what to plan for, how to pivot, how to profit. Joe, can you really fill us in, set the groundwork for us? Where are we at from a macro perspective with the economy and markets?
I mean, this year, 2025, was a challenging year from the economy standpoint, just with all the uncertainty and things that happen. You think tariffs, you think government shutdown, you think all these different things that happen in 2025, which really created, when that uncertainty happens, it just ends up being a slower growth year. And like we saw some interest rate reductions, and I think the other side that we're seeing is, as we talk about AI and things like that and technology investments, and we've seen some layoffs here in town with someone like Target. We are seeing that the employment market is being a little softer right now too. So kind of going into 2026, what we're seeing is 2025 was a little bit softer of a year. So then when you look at, well, okay, if that's kind of the current status, those things aren't exactly incubators for a robust 2026. So what are companies looking at doing then, and what are they anticipating? I think they are looking at, okay, if we still want to grow, what are we going to do if we're thinking that GDP in the economy is going to be a 2 to 4% kind of growth rate? What are we going to do? I think then they look at things like, how do we become more efficient? How do we, maybe if the top line isn't growing, how do we become more efficient on our expenses to drop more to our profitability? So that tends to be more like, investments in technologies, looking at processes and procedures and leaning down. The other thing I think we're anticipating is a stronger M&A market, using that as a growth strategy. In our industry, banking, the regulatory environment is certainly leading to that being a strategy that people are utilizing. Deals that were taking 2+ years to get done now in the current regulatory environment are getting done in more like 4 or 5 months. So it's more of an environment where you can utilize that as a strategy. There's no mystery of why someone like Bremer was able to get that, and Old National were able to get their acquisition done this year. I think not only our industry, but other industries, that will be a tactic that people will use. Is if we're going to see another year of uncertainty in the economy, of just a slower growth market, what other tools can we look at when we run our business to drop more profitability to our bottom line?
You have a lot of threads in that I would love to pull on. Before we go into the tech, you mentioned the Target layoffs. Jenna, from your vantage point, like, are people hiring? If they're hiring, what is their kind of talent strategy? What are some of the core things that they're thinking about? And how does that kind of soft market conditions impact those hiring plans?
Yes, great question. So I think the question around are companies hiring, yes, but it really is industry dependent. You see a lot of industries, right, that are pulling back or pausing on hiring, and others that are growing and are hiring. I think companies are getting a lot more creative as to how they solve for talent gaps. So that could be really a mix of externally hiring, yes, but also looking internally and looking at how can they be more agile in tapping into talent within their organization to take on new skills, as well as the need to really upskill and reskill. So being more creative in their hiring strategies, and as I mentioned hiring externally, yes, we still see that happening, again, depending on the industry, but also leveraging more contract or gig or interim talent as well, for more project-based works or specific skill sets that organizations may not have in-house.
I'm curious, so as we think about developing the talent that we have and really kind of doubling down on the teams, Taylor, what are some of the tactics that other organizations are using, like when we think about like really shaping that core talent that we already have?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of organizations are piloting what we call badge awards and 6 to 12 month and then 12 to 18 month programs. And so you talked about upskilling and reskilling. What we're seeing is employees have an opportunity to either complete a certification or a degree program, and it doesn't always end in a promotion internally, but it does allow them to receive pay bumps. And then within that process, they earn badges. And so in that internal profile, you can see that this individual is taking the time to invest in their skill set and sharpening those skills. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship where employees now get to see this pay bump, they see how they're progressing, and then the organization, to your point, benefits by helping those employees upskill, reskill, closing that future talent gap. So if they are unable to hire externally, they already have a pipeline of employees that they can pull from.
Perfect. So we just covered some of the talent pieces. And I didn't mean to tee the conversation up like this, but I'm curious, so we were talking about our current talent, and I want to understand and get into more of the AI. Are those at odds with each other? And how are companies thinking about kind of building out some of their technology capabilities? Matt, do you want to kind of lead us through, do those have to be at odds with each other? What should we be thinking about from that perspective?
Yeah, I'm going to sneak up on this thing. So AI, the AI of it all, do I get to say, am I on the clock? No, okay. I don't get a unicorn, no.
I was waiting very patiently.
Do I get to pick what my animal is? So it's interesting because it's not really at odds. It's the maturity and the ability to absorb it that we're seeing because we work with, again, smaller end market manufacturers. Some of them still use green screen, guys, and some of you might be not old enough to know what that is because that's that old. Or we're using homebrewed things or something like that. So what we're seeing with the lower end of the market with AI, it's enabling the technological uplift, not necessarily upskill. You guys have that side of the equation. I'm just the robot. But we are seeing people bring in AI to sort of solve some of the gaps or kind of connect some things that really couldn't be connected that well before. Now, I will say, I'm going to put a bit of asterisks on this thing. Your data has to be super good, and a lot of them aren't really good at that. So we're doing a lot of data cleanup, a lot of data analysis, a lot of data validation before that AI option can come into play. But that's also letting the people that have helped build the technology, design the technology, maintain the technology, also learn, hey, how do I get this to talk to some of the other systems? So other side, higher end scale, I'll be frank and honest, I think the digital strategy around that is still in silos. So you have portions and parts of organizations that are adopting AI that don't have it digitally across the entirety of the platforms that you see kind of with a smaller one, right? Because you're feeding the water 5 systems, that's different than 50 or 500 systems. But we're seeing that AI is being embraced more, they're starting to lean into it more, so it doesn't seem to have the effect of, hey, these are at odds in terms of people versus AI from what we're seeing just yet.
It does seem like we're in a world where data is currency. I'm curious if you have any real practical tips or tricks for operators on how we should be thinking about capturing our data right now. But then my next step of that question is security.
Sure. The twofer, all right. So data, tips and tricks, I'm sorry, I'm probably really loud. I apologize if I'm blowing your all's eardrums out. The data, the companies we're seeing do really well with it are investing the time, the energy, and the money into doing it. They're not just trying to slap AI and be like, doesn't AI fix all of our problems? We've had those conversations. We will continue to have those conversations. But what we're seeing, the companies that are taking it seriously and sitting down and saying, hey, we have all this data. We need to be able to use this data, but we don't know what to do to kind of get it to the point where this is consumable by one of these AI tools, or we can't get agentic with this thing. Those are the companies we're seeing the more successful rollouts when they're trying to do things like, hey, we want to adopt some new technology, but we need data cleansing. So a lot of companies are trying to buy their way out of that problem and say, hey, we just want to buy a new ERP system and bring over all the data. It's like, that's not going to help you. You're going to have the same problems over again. But that focus on really just investing the time into the data and getting into a consumable format where it's, one version of the truth as much as it can be, that's huge. Cybersecurity. So I actually sat in that chair where my buddy Wade's sitting right there. Wade, say hi. Last year, we talked a lot about AI. This year, almost from the beginning of the year, it was cybersecurity. Everything flipped to cybersecurity. And the reason is AI makes everything faster and easier to do. And as a result, we're having more discussions about, hey, now we're getting hit with all these cyber attacks from these AI things. We need to bulk that up. So that's actually been the more important and more prioritized things for people than the AI has been this year.
Do you mind if I jump? Is that allowed? Can I just talk to? Okay. This is an interesting subject to me, because I think we're talking about this at our bank a lot. Is having all this data is great, and being in a service business, I think it is valuable in. It can help you know your clients better and things like that. But I think what we're finding as well is you have to be careful with how you're using that. I'm sure you've all gotten from a financial institution, like, spam emails or whatever saying, this product would be good for you or whatever. And I think what we're finding, what we're hearing from our clients is they still really want relationships, and they still really want a human being who knows them. So we're trying to kind of figure that dance out a little bit of yeah, we want to make sure we have the data and we know our clients and we have the info, but we still want to engage them in a human way. And we find that is a big differentiator still, is that relationships really do matter. And so the danger is that you overuse those tools and you start saying hey, sign up for this credit card because we saw you spend money here and here and here. That's not necessarily how the data is being utilized to the most beneficial way. I'm not saying we've got it all figured out, but I think that's what we're hearing from our clientele too, is that's great that you know these things about me, but I actually want to still engage with you.
So the interweaving of those, think about how in my world, what we would call the tech stack, think about how that can make your teams and your businesses more efficient, but understand that we've got to integrate and weave that in with our talent development. So I want to kind of share a stat. And when I first came across this, I was like, that can't be real. I double checked, it is. So a Harvard economist calculated that 90% of US GDP growth came from AI-related investments. And so without that, in the first half of 2025, we would have had GDP growth of nearly zero. So I'm curious, as we're thinking about this massive technology, how do we anticipate that shaping the future of our businesses, our clients' businesses, and as a group, how do we understand what is distraction and hype, and where there's applicable pieces for us to actually start implementing or developing or training? Jump ball. Yep. I guess that's the wrong analogy for here.
Boy, I don't have a super awesome answer for that. I will say what we've seen in terms of the appetite and aptitude around AI for adoption across most of the companies we work with, and again, that's a wide net. We are seeing it more used as just a problem solved, to say, hey, we have these problems, how can we solve this with AI, instead of trying to go, what is AI? I don't know what that is, how do we use it? So we're seeing people come with use cases and problems. One of the things we're seing a lot of is when everything went to the cloud a long time ago. I won't tell you how long ago because I'm very old, but a long time ago went on to the cloud, like hairballs were bad words, right? Everybody had, get rid of the hairball, you don't want a hairball, you don't want a hairball, these big monolithic systems, you want one stop. And we're starting to see, not only from a mom and pop level, but $1 billion plus level, people are reinventing the hairball a little bit because they want the best version of whatever that industry thing is. They may have a smaller ERP than they used to have in SAP, so they're putting like a NetSuite or a Business Central in. They're then going and saying, what's the industry sort of solution for this particular thing, be it a quoting system or an MRP, a manufacturing resource planning system, those kind of things, and then using AI to connect those in a more connective way. So that seems to be like the most powerful sort of wave at the front or the back of the ship rather to push it forward in terms of adoption. So it's a more pragmatic approach that I think people are saying, I've had this problem, I can use this tool now to layer and solve it, rather than, a year ago it was like, I don't know what our AI strategy is because I don't know what it is. So I don't know if that really stuck the landing, but that's from our experience we're seeing.
Yeah, I do think, when you're kind of talking about the stats on how much AI is really contributing to the economy, I do think it's not shocking in the sense of, I do think AI is a really revolutionary technology and a revolutionary state that we're in. I compare it to kind of like the internet coming about. And so it's not shocking that it is a huge driver in the economy, and you think of the companies like NVIDIA that are really growing and accomplishing or contributing a lot to the S&P 500. That's kind of what we saw in that internet phase as well. Those early drivers really drove a lot of the economy. And then you think of like what kind of can be the next phase, and we're already seeing a little bit, is now some of the infrastructure investments that are being required to drive the technology, which is some of the data centers, which is some of those hardware investments that are really happening now, are kind of starting to move in that phase. And then when it was the internet, then it was kind of the application things that came after the infrastructure side of things. And I could anticipate that being more of it. You think all the applications, the apps and things like that can go with AI, so businesses can easily utilize the software in a more natural level. I do think we'll see more of that and be more of a driver of the economy as some of those hardware and application models that happen. So I do think that. I think what we're trying to see is, how do we encourage people to utilize AI to kind of get rid of some of the more manual tasks? Not that we're looking at not needing people, but having them focus their day on less of inputs and more on how do we look at processes and procedures and more of those things. So I do think a lot of companies from a expense standpoint will be able to, the talk right now is that they're going to be able to drop and lower expenses. I think the hope from someone like us, like in banking, is that we'll just be able to maintain operating expenses better and not necessarily use AI to completely drop them. But as we grow, we won't need to add at the levels we've had to add in previous years.
So approaching this from a human capital standpoint, we've got our robot and our dollar sign. Go ladder, go. When we think about marrying AI with talent, we have to make sure your teams understand what's in it for them, right? Because there's a lot of speculation that human roles will be replaced. But at the end of the day, everybody really values that personal touch. They want to talk to a human. How many times have you called for some service support and you're talking to a robot and you find yourself pressing 0 over and over again to talk to a human, right? So what we have to do is make sure that we're training our teams on prompt engineering, right? What do I put in to ensure that I get out what I'm looking for, and not necessarily relying on those tools specifically to create compensation philosophies and policies, right? That would be dangerous. We can't rely on the internet to do some of those things that humans have to lead, right? And so when we think about that, being able to communicate to our teams, how can I support you? But then surveying your current teams and asking, what is your level of comfort with AI? Like, from 0 to 10, are you at a 0 where you have absolutely no experience and you have no idea how to use this, and 10, you can do it in your sleep, right? Because if you don't know, then you're just throwing training and support at a team and you don't have any idea what they actually need from you. You can't meet them where they are. So I would say, as a first step, to marry that AI with your talent, understand where they are along that journey, and then you can meet them and help with whatever training or support is necessary.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would also say, from a talent perspective, things have, as we all know, within the AI space have changed so rapidly, and it wasn't that long ago that companies were starting to talk about, oh, we're trying to solve for AI, we're thinking about how we might leverage that from a talent perspective, to now they're using it. And so I think just the speed has been really interesting. But an example of how we're seeing organizations use it in everyday processes, again, from a talent perspective, is in the recruiting process. So that initial interview may be an AI-based interview, but that doesn't mean that entire interview process is AI. So you may start with that, but you still have that human component and that human connection that might come later in the hiring process. So that's just an example of how we're seeing it. I think changing the narrative too, from employees thinking, okay, AI is coming for my job. Well, what is AI allowing you to do differently, or how to better utilize your time, or to take off your plate some of those administrative tasks. And so what then does that allow you to do? I think there's also the question out there of what does this mean in the workforce when you have emerging talent and that more entry-level talent, and if AI is taking off more of those administrative tasks, how are we equipping and teaching and training our newest employees in the workforce? I don't have the answer for that, but I think that is something that we're hearing a lot of.
I think, sorry, I didn't mean to jump all that one, but I think we'll start to see more degree programs incorporate that AI component so that those early career employees will be prepared to maybe skip that entry role and go into something that's more strategic. So interested to see how that goes.
I want to pivot a little bit into, and I think the tech conversation is a great kind of segue. So I think, Taylor, in your previous comment, you mentioned that we have 6 generations in the workforce right now. And certainly that's a lot, more than what we've had at any other point in history.
Yeah.
And so as we have kind of radically and very quickly changing technology capabilities, and a large swath of generations that all have different lived experiences and different communication styles, it is a beautiful, crazy storm out there. I would be curious if you have any practical communication tips or tricks that we can take with us into our organizations as we navigate the generational kind of challenges.
Yeah, it's a great question. I know it sounds scary to have so many generations in the workplace, but I think the first step is to first just debunk all the assumptions and stereotypes that we have subscribed to, right? When we think about what we listen to in our podcast, what we're reading, the generational differences are less about quirky preferences and more about fostering cultures that center clarity and authenticity. So regardless of generation, all of your employees value two-way dialogue. They want to know what's going on in the organization, and one way you can do that as a best practice is to create layered communication frameworks. So you might have a company meeting, follow that up by a manager-led team meeting, follow that up by a Slack channel so that you are incorporating this consistent open communication channel. Now, there are some things that do reign true, right? For example, you may read that our tenured employees prefer structured and formal feedback, right? And our early career talent prefer real-time feedback in that moment. Two things can be true, but what we don't want to do is rely on these generational assumptions to determine how we lead and how we coach our teams. We have to take an individual approach. So what that means is you learn your individual need for each employee, right? Where are they? What are their strengths? What improvements do they need to make? And then you meet them where they are. Instead of saying, oh, well, you're Gen Z, so I guess I'll just tell you what you need to do today and hope that it changes tomorrow, right? We have to create true coaching plans for each of our employees. And so when we think about work preferences and communication styles, again, we see a lot about how tenured employees, when we think about the boomer generation and the Generation X, prefer stability and the ability to share their input and that input be heard. Whereas you have this mid-career employee, think about millennials, right, who prefer autonomy and the opportunity to be mentored or to mentor others. And then you have our early career, who really need to have a sense of purpose, right, and have career progression. Again, all these things can be true, but we won't or we shouldn't rely on those assumptions. Again, we have to understand what are their career goals? How do we get them where they need to be? And if we're unable to meet that expectation, then we will see decline in morale, right? That's where we start to see turnover because they're like, well, you can't help me here. Again, regardless of generation, where can I go to get what I need? So when we think about the generational divide, again, less about these preferences and more about how do we ensure that we are meeting you where you are and you where you are. And that really comes down to continuous learning, flexibility, and allowing our employees to chart their own path and supporting them with that process.
I love that. So before we open it up to questions, I want to give the panel kind of just an opportunity for a little bit of a recap, but also a very leading question. Okay. So with opportunity, or with a lot of change comes opportunity. I'd be curious to hear from each of you, why do you feel like 2026 is a good year to grow or invest in your business?
For us, specifically, I think we think the market is really advantageous for us right now. I kind of talked a little bit about all the M&A activity that's happened in banking. And so I think what we're seeing is people really are craving a model where they can have a relationship and a service level with their bank, that they feel like their banker knows them, that they are with an organization that has access to decision makers and can move at a speed that they want to move at. Because in banking, institutions have just there's been so much M&A that institutions have just gotten larger and larger and larger, and the business case behind that is just kind of the economies of scale. It's gotten more and more expensive to do business, so our competitors think being larger is better, but that's not the best client experience. And so clients want a better experience in their banking relationship, which is, hey, I can call someone and get something done when I need to. If I have a problem, I know who to ask. I don't just have 1-800 numbers. And that leans into our model, which is really a high touch, high service, fast response. That is the other thing. The other thing I think we're seeing is people do want to be with an organization that shares their values. And I think we try to really lean into that, is get to know what's important to our clients, really give back in their communities, give back to things that are very important to them, and that resonates with them. Hey, I'm not only doing business with you, but I have a shared value with you, and I appreciate what your organization stands for. And I think that's really something we think we can differentiate on.
I'll take it more from a talent HR perspective, but investing, like, why is 2026 the right time to be investing in your business? I'm going to kind of take a different slant of investing in your talent. And it's a lot of what we've already talked about, but everything from what is your compensation, your total reward strategy, to connecting to your values in a time of, right, an ever-changing landscape, geopolitical, issues going on in the world, instability economically, giving your employees something that they can all kind of align to, and that being your values, and having that as that common kind of anchor, I think is more important than ever. So really being able to align and reiterate those values. As well as investing in, the talent planning, the people, the leadership development, succession planning is so important. So as we're talking with a lot of small and mid-sized companies, succession planning continues to come up, and there are companies who are being really thoughtful and proactive, and there are others that aren't. And when you're not, that can be really painful, and that can definitely have ripple effects throughout the organization. organization. So I think that investment in, your succession plan, how you're preparing that next generation of leaders, that's really important to think about investing in 2026.
Okay. So I will double tap or pretty much everything you shared. But when we think about the competitive pressure of talent shortages, well, first I'll say this will sound grim at first, but I promise there's a positive side. So just stick with me. We are anticipating talent shortages driven by delayed entrance to the workforce, retirement of the boomer generation, and then the rise of the gig economy. If you're unfamiliar with the gig economy, think freelance and contracted work. We're also seeing an occupational mismatch, right? We have more unemployed job seekers than available jobs, and not enough job seekers with the right talent and skills. So this is a fantastic time for you to invest in your workforce. Think about ways that you can have a competitive compensation structure, or invest in the development of your employees, right? These are the things that are going to help you kind of minimize the impact of the future talent gap. So some things you can do when you think about that is use your benefits as a competitive differentiator, right? Employees don't just expect holistic wellness. They need more than just the medical coverage, right? They're looking for mental health. They're looking for financial wellness programs. They are looking for family-friendly perks. So think pet insurance or even caregiver support, right? How can we invest in some of those things? I mean, when you think about succession planning, which is a huge deal, according to Upwork Research Institute, 11,000 people are reaching retirement age every day. I'll say that again. 11,000 people are reaching retirement age every day. So it is the time to reimagine your talent pipeline. Think about creating alumni programs, right? That will help create opportunities for consulting work for people who have already retired. Maybe they're looking for ways to re-enter the market. They don't want to do that full time. They can offer consulting work, right? That plays into that gig economy structure. You can also redefine your roles to meet the evolving needs of your workforce. Job sharing, Flex Fridays, things of that nature, or rotational programs. I mentioned this earlier, but rotational programs help to create cross-functional training and create career paths for your employees. So again, we have to figure out ways that we can minimize that talent gap as we are looking to the future. So those are awesome ways to invest. There's a long-term ROI on that. You can have higher customer satisfaction, higher productivity, and then safeguarding that institutional knowledge is critical in a market where you are fighting for talent. So I would say invest in your workforce.
Super duper pumped I went last on this one. There's a lot of smartness on this side and I know why there's somebody down here. The reason 26 is good, but 2025 was kind of not great. So that's one driving factor. It's everyone's they sat and waited, right? I'm going to tell you guys that your competitors aren't waiting anymore. They're not sitting around anymore. They're done sitting on their wallets. They're all going and investing in whatever it is, right? It may be technology, but most of it's people. I will kind of tie the two together because you said I'm smart, so I'm going to try to sound smart. There is so much bad technology out there people are having to fight through and use. Companies are losing people as a result of that. They're like, I cannot use this system. I can't fight it another day. So people are going to other organizations, and one of the companies I work with, they're interviewing people, and they're like, we're being asked what our tech stack is now. We've never been asked that before because the user experience is so bad with this other company that they're just escaping that. It's a great company, I like the people, but the tech stack sucks. So people are hearing that in the market. People are getting off their wallet and doing that. Doesn't mean you have to change everything, but certainly, please, go through a tune-up, sit down, go through your user group, whatever user experience you have, kind of audit that, go through, see what's working, see what isn't working. I guarantee there are probably half your organization is using Excel way more than they should. It's not super secure, and people are now going, well, which version of this do we need to worry about? So that's the advice I've been giving clients, hey, you're kind of done waiting. The three big, you want to make more money, you want to keep more money, or you want to reduce risk or increase compliance, kind of arguably the fourth one. Everyone's kind of done trying to keep money. It's time to start focus on, hey, how can we get more and get the revenue going? And that's empowering your people and tuning up the technology to make your people better.
I love that. Okay, so let's open it up to questions. Aaron will be running around with a mic, but let's go.
2 questions. 1 question. Come on. Let's go. Are you serious?
I'll start calling on people.
Leonard, thank you so much.
I'm curious about the hiring of young people and what the pattern, is anybody hiring anybody out of college right now? Because that's kind of the risk, I think, of AI right now. It's that they're under pressure. And I wondered if anybody's hiring younger people.
All right, just to repeat that question, is anybody hiring young people? Basically, as a summary. So how is AI affecting entry-level talent coming in?
That's a hard question. I know.
Come on, here we go. Softball, here we go. Yep.
So the answer is yes. A lot of it is industry specific, but Whipley is kind of an odd company because we do accounting and technology, so we're not on the cutting edge on just everything, but there are no accountants out there to be had. We are literally arm wrestling and trying to steal accountants left, right, and sideways, just like all of you are doing. So yes, they are hiring people in that. I have not seen any decrease in the tech side of things either. I don't think AI's from what we're seeing from tech, and please don't take this and put this on the internet because people will email me. What we're seeing is the top line is the adoption, right? Companies are adopting AI at the top line. It's not filtering down to all the people yet, especially with professional services bends on technology. Those jobs are still out there. If you know someone looking, please tell them to email me because I know a couple people like Wade's son. He's in high demand because he has a tech background. He has just a bunch of options flying at him right now because he's Wade's son, so he's smart. 2, his background's what people want. So we are seeing that happen. There are areas where we're not, right? Soft on some things, but we haven't seen the complete halt or the impact like that.
All right. Does anybody want to tackle anything that has to do with that? Otherwise, we're going to push them into small groups. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You all at tables, we have some note cards that Amber and Emily are going to be passing around. That's a small group discussion starters. You all here in this front here, let's try and make 3 groups out of this. It's going to be a mess. It's fine. So go ahead and make a few groups here. Here's one caveat I'm going to throw on that because we didn't address this, but I kind of didn't want to address it at a greater level. FMLA, how are you approaching FMLA? So if you have employees and if you employ anybody, you have to adjust to FMLA. 0.66%, how are you handling that, okay? Let's throw that out there. We'll come back together in 20 minutes, 20 minutes. All right, does anybody have anything that they want to share or a question that came from your small groups that you want to ask somebody from the panel? Any ahas? Any ahas? I'm just looking for one. You guys you're all excited and talkative until I start asking questions, then you get all quiet. That's not a C9 thing. Come on now, any questions? Any ahas? Aha, Stacy Stratton, good to see you. Keep the mic close to your face and use that voice of yours. What was your aha?
We're all happy. In difficulty, there's opportunity. We are all happy.
Yeah, I kind of think about there's a little bit of I'm just going to throw a little commentary on that comment. So they said they're really happy. I think there's a little bit of a mindset, I'm going to double down on what Posey said there, is there's a difference between entrepreneurs and owners. Entrepreneurs are willing to take the chances and willing to invest in their businesses and are willing to forge through in hard times. Owners are going to ride the wave a little bit. It's a mentality thing. It's not a label thing. It's a mentality thing. So I think, saying that, I look at that table sitting there, very entrepreneurial in a lot of different ways, but that is a mindset, and I appreciate that. So very well said. Yeah. Anything else? Any other ahas or any other questions? No? Jeez, it got awful quiet. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just take it from here then, Michaela. Is that cool? All right. First of all, I want to say thank you to Michaela. Michaela, you did a fantastic job moderating this. that AI thing that you pulled out at the beginning with that little blue guy that Jenna gets now, put that in your workstation, your office, or whatever you got over there at Verseek. So that'd be fantastic. I want to thank Joe, Jenna, Taylor, and Matt. What a great panel, huh? I wish we had a little bit more time, but we all have busy lives and stuff like that, so we want to make sure and condense this into as much of a valuable experience as we possibly could. And how did we feel about these small breakout sessions? Do we feel good about that? 20 minutes? Yeah, good. Yeah, that's our thing, right? Like we try and make it as experiential as possible. I want to thank Viking Lakes. Thank you so much for hosting us. All of our community supporters, again, thank you so much for making this happen. If anybody is interested in supporting this community, it is an outstanding program that we've created. Be able to amplify your brands to our members and the small business community in the Twin Cities. We're in the middle of the drive here. We're going to be closing that out at the end of the year, so just hit me up, pull me aside, or shoot me an email or something like that if that's something that you're looking to invest in. I want to thank our event supporters, strategic talent partners, Loeffler Construction and Consulting, Orion, and Groove Capital. Thank you very much. And then our event partners, Helmuth and Johnson. Thank you so much. Ilana and Carl, Irish Titan, Darren and Jack, and then Whiffley, all the folks over at Whiffley, but specifically you, Matt. Thank you very much for that. I cannot thank these people enough. Our team right here. Give these people a huge round of applause. If anybody was part of C9 when we started and we did not have these people, it was a gong show. It was myself and my wife, and it almost precipitated a divorce. So she has now transitioned out, and we have an amazing team. So thank you so much to you all. We got some cool stuff coming up. So December 12th, if you guys didn't get the invite, check your spam boxes because it is our sauna cold plunge event. It is a Friday afternoon. It is a perfect opportunity to sweat it out with some of your friends and people you may or may not know, and then jump in the lake. And you're going to do that over and over and over. And then our calendar is going to be launching for 2026. We have some very cool things planned. This event will be again next year, preparing for 2027 in November, which is insane to even have those words come out of my mouth. But we do have some really cool things planned from both a wellness perspective, educational perspective, and social perspective. And then more than anything, I want to thank all of our members that make this thing happen. Anybody here that is interested in C9, ask people why they're a part of it. They'll shoot you straight. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. We are so thankful to have such a great business community supporting each other. I saw it happen in real life here, and that's what makes our community vibrant. So thank you so much. And you guys have the space here, so take advantage of it. Thank you.